Welcome to another episode of the Science and Spirituality podcast. This one I'm really thrilled about. So welcome to 2020. Welcome to a new year, a new decade. And this episode I wanted to cover, and I brought this idea up. Chris said, yes, he likes the idea. And so we're going to go with it. About New Year's resolutions and the energy that is present around a new year. Because I used to be a person when I first got into personal development and spirituality and like the science of transformation, that I saw the new year as like a scapegoat for people to set new like resolutions, new goals, but then they fall off of it. And I kind of got like, I kind of got cynical about it. It's like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, why even do it? Like, it's ridiculous. You should be changing your entire life, like, throughout the entire year. And really try working on improving yourself. And chances are you listening are probably one of those people that does that works on themselves throughout the year. But over time, as I've matured and evolved in my perceptions, I started to realize, and this is what I want to talk about, and we're going to talk about on this episode, is the power that is in the new year, like the beginning of, like, especially the first week, let alone the first month of a new year. There holds so much power that you can harness. And if you're cynical like I was, then you're missing out. So we're going to dive into that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what exactly do you mean when you say that there's power? Like, where is that coming from? Is it a spiritual power that you're thinking about?
Sure.
Because for me, like what I'm thinking is that, like, as humans, like, we tend to place meanings on certain things.
Yes.
Like certain celebrations, and we're very like ritual orientated, a lot of us, even if we don't realize it. Like, we have rituals around things like Christmas, like birthdays,
Yep,
new beginnings, like endings. Like, you have happy hours when you leave work and you're starting a new job. Like, there's all these like life stages.
mm-hmm.
And so I feel like New Year's is kind of one of those things that we place rituals on. And so I feel like that's where you can derive the power from like an internal perspective.
Yeah.
But is there actually a power that you're speaking of, or is it a perception about an event that's occurring that you can use to leverage into new beginning kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like to say, I think it's both in my perspective, because like it definitely like it arrives from the, like, its genesis is from us humans creating meaning. Like, I think if you think about it, I mean, we as humans created the calendar anyway, like a full cyclical year. And yes, we base it on astrological phenomena, like astronomical phenomena, like the planets and how it all correlates. So it's like a full circle, a full year. But it really is our own meaning that we place on it. And what I'm saying is as a power is that it's been done for thousands of years. It's like, oh, like it's a new year, new start. So there's a lot of energy that's already generated from, millennia of celebrating a new year and as a new start. So there's that's what I mean. So there is a kind of a spiritual power to it, because as humans put meaning to it, and we as the spirit bring our energy into this I imagine it as if as like a groove, not a rut, a groove, like that's actually good, like for you to be in, where there's energy pouring into, and it's creating like a channel for flow. And so that's what I was saying is like a power. But I think it's both. So it is a spiritual power, but then also like we created as well. We infused that spirit in it. And that's why I say it's a really powerful time, because it's here. Like that energy is here and we all feel it. I mean, it starts like the day or even leading up to it for many people, but like at the very least, New Year's Eve, like people have anticipation for it turning to midnight and then celebrating it's a new year. So there's energy that comes through.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think like that's the way that I view it. Like, I think of it as because there's always that weird time between like Christmas and New Year's, where like you're not really sure like what's going on. You don't know what day it is. Like, you don't know what you're in this like weird like lazy time. And I think a lot of people look to New Year's to kind of snap themselves out of that. And that's definitely like what I did this year. But there's definitely that feeling of waking up on like January 1st, especially if you have things in your mind that you really want to start. Like, it almost ants you to get them started, because again, like it's that meaning that we place on things as humans, where it's like, now that it's January 1st, 2020, everything from 2019, like I can erase it. Like I can just,
Yeah.
all the stuff, like the bad things that happened, all the things that I didn't stick to, the things I said I was going to commit to that I didn't commit to. It's like a clean slate now.
Yep.
And I think as humans, like we like that idea in our heads of a clean slate to kind of get started on the right foot. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, because I think a lot of people do feel that way, but then I also think, because you said you were getting cynical about it, I
Mm,
think a lot of people get cynical about it because however old you are, there's probably times where you made New Year's resolutions, and then a few weeks later, a few months later, it's just like nothing ever happened. And then you're like,
yeah.
oh, like I'll wait till next year, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot recently because that's something that I've been struggling with in the past, like saying I'm going to do something and having all this momentum in the very beginning, but then having that momentum kind of die off. And after a few weeks to a few months, it's like I didn't even start those things in the first place. So I've been thinking of like my theme actually for this year is winning the day. And
Nice.
it's because I realized that sometimes I'll have these goals that I want to, let's say I have a specific way I want to look, or I have a specific amount of money I want to make, or a specific way that I want to feel. And I don't realize that it's in the day to day progression that actually ends up taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think it's going to happen in like a few days, after a few days, you're going to realize nothing's actually happening. Like on the surface, you might get discouraged, but if you realize underneath, you're building that momentum and building that equity up by winning each single day. Like that's how you really end up climbing mountains and end up really getting what you want done. So that's like my theme for the year is like waking up in the morning, asking myself what I can do today to make myself feel like I won the day. And then as long as I keep doing that, kind of surrendering up what's going to happen in like the macro big picture,
Yeah.
because I know that each day, if I can win each day over and over and over again, that's going to build up into something that I eventually want to happen.
No, I love that. And I've actually been thinking about that too, because, and like a point that I'm going to get to later, but I want to mention now is like one of the things I'm being very aware of is that I know there's going to be a barrier that I hit with my New Year's resolutions and my new way of being. Like I'm waking up at 5:30 now, like, and I have had done that in the past, but like I'm recommitting to that because I'd fell off track. Like I'm working out every day, every other day. I'm visualizing my dream like twice a day now, and I know, like I'm keeping in my mind is like there's going to be something coming up, like in my mind, like beliefs or thoughts or doubts, and I need to be vigilant so that I'm not believing in those and wasting my energy in those. But coupled with that is just spending and investing my energy in this day, not worrying about when that happens, because everyone listening, and this is for Chris and I as well, that we will have paradigms that come up. We will have limiting beliefs that come up. We will have doubting thoughts. We will have limiting thoughts. We will have worry thoughts. Fears come up, and that many times they're disguised as practicality, or like we dissuade ourselves from moving forward, or we delay. It's like, oh, like I'm still on track. I'm just going to wait until tomorrow to do what I said I wanted to do. But like we need to be very careful about that, because that is a pattern. And so I'm just being very careful of that myself this new year, and just like I'm being very careful, like noticing, all right, is it coming up yet? And already there's been like minor times, like tiny little moments, like a few minutes here or there, where like I noticed that like I let my mind like go off into a track of like thinking a month from now if like nothing changes. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like it's only the third day or fourth day of the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Like chill out, Kevin's brain. It's like you just have to rein in your thinking with that. And I think that's really important when it comes to really harnessing the energy of this new year, on top of, like you said, like winning the day, because that's,
Yeah.
you have to do that. Like that's exactly what, it's coupled with what I'm sharing and that I'm doing. It seems like we're very in alignment with that. That's great.
And you can even break it down further to like winning an hour or
Yeah.
winning like 10 minutes, or like another thing I'm focusing on is like winning the morning. Like
Mm,
establishing a morning routine is something that I'm like very keen on this
yeah.
year. And I noticed, I think there was the first day of the new year, or the second day, or even like today, I set my alarm at like 6:45,
Yeah.
and I ended up waking up at like 9:30. But and like a part of me was like, like shit, it's 9:30 now,
It's
like
done. Yeah.
it's done. But
Yep.
I did my morning shit anyway. I did
Nice.
minutes of meditation, like I did my pleasure reading, and then I did my academic reading, and then um yeah, and then I did yoga. So I did my
Nice.
stuff. And then even though like it was like 11:30 when I was done, I was like, yo, I did it. You know what I
You
mean?
did
It's
it.
like,
Yep.
and then I wrote down a quote in my notebook, because I'm kind of like keep track of like my thoughts. And one of them is like let go of perfection. Like
Mm,
it doesn't matter. Like
yep.
it's not about being perfect, because if I wanted to wake up at 6:30, but then I snoozed my alarm to 8:30, I could have easily said I'll start tomorrow. Like damn it, like it didn't work out.
Yep.
But that's just, it's selling yourself short, because there's still all that stuff you could do for the day.
Yep.
And then I realized like, wow, I did everything that I said I was going to do today, and it's not even 12 o'clock yet. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I might have wanted it to be before 9 a.m., but it's still like something, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
something that I can build off of tomorrow and then the next day.
Yep. And then the next
Yeah,
day, and the
yeah,
next day, and the next day.
yeah. So
Eh,
that's like the thing. It's like, not worrying about perfection and just kind of like getting stuff done and
yep.
all that. So that's another like kind of theme that I'm going for this year.
Mm,
And I think all like a lot of that wraps up in just not being too hard on myself.
yeah.
But I think something that you mentioned that was very key too is kind of surrendering to the fact that there's going to be times when you're going to have setbacks, or there's going to be times when you feel like you want to give up. Because
Yep.
if you go into the new year being like, wow, like 2020, like this is new year, new me, like,
I
I'm going to
got
be totally
this.
different this time.
Nothing's gonna be
Exactly.
wrong.
And
Yeah.
like the minute that you come up against a wall, it's going to hit you that much harder because you're not expecting it. Like
Yep.
if you expect it to happen, then when it happens, like you can just say like, oh, like I know what this is, rather than
Yep.
like, God damn it, not again,
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Is it? I really want to just hammer that point one more time. Is that it will happen. Do not delude yourself or get into this illusion that the barrier of fear, doubt, worry, your old patterns will not come up. Like if you think they won't come up, then you're going to get knocked on your ass. Like you're going to get knocked anyway. Because and it's not like some outside force that's like trying to hold you back. It's your own inner self-image. It's like how you see yourself, or your inner paradigms, your inner patterns that have their own energy to it. It's like a gravitational pull back to the familiar. Like, for example, if you decide, which is a big one, to say, I'm going to work out like 3 times a week now, and I'm never going to, I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to make that my new pattern. But if in 2019, you only worked out a total of 10 times, you'd be deluding yourself if you would think that it would never come up for you to think like, oh, like I'm too tired today, or like I worked out once this week, that's better than last year, like I could do it. But like if you commit to 3, then notice like those things are going to come up, and when they do, it's not bad, it's actually good in those times. And we talked about this on other episodes, that like negative thinking is good. The
Mm-hmm.
whole episode on that, it's like 10-15 minutes. Go listen to that. But this is like the kind of not even beyond the thinking, is like patterns, like habits, like things that you're doing. So like, yeah, those habits of like, yeah, if you're going to work out 3 times a week, like there's going to be some thoughts and feelings of like, oh, I don't want to, but you got to override that. That's like great. I mean, people who live extraordinary lives and are living at their edge and growing, they face those times and they still move forward. It's not about a pushing through, because pushing through can only last for so long, which is another reason I think why New Year's resolutions fail, is because people try to push through their old paradigms and patterns, but ultimately the gravitational force of the old patterns will keep you stuck. You have to be in love with the new result that you want more than trying to push past the old.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great quote where it says that if you want to or change a system, or in other words, like your own personal system, if you want to change a system, don't try to change the old. You build a new system that makes the old system obsolete.
Mm.
Forget who's quoted by that, and that's a complete paraphrase, but
Probably like Jesus.
Jesus. No, it was someone I think in like the industrial era of the United States. But anyway.
Okay, yeah. And then I think another thing too that would help people with their New Year's resolutions
Mm.
is, so for example, like working out. I think that if you have the goal of working out X amount of times a week, because like for the end result of your body looking a certain way, you might get discouraged because of how long it takes for you to actually see change in your body.
Mm.
But if your goal is to work out on a consistent basis to feel healthier and to have like, and not like any physical thing, but to like mentally be like, oh, if I work out 3 times a week, like that's a win over my mental state of like laziness. or,
Yeah.
you know, like I feel better. It doesn't matter what I look like right now, but it's just like the consistency of working out 3 times a week, how I'm going to feel inside because I do that rather than how I'm going to look outside. Like it'll kind of help you with those goals. Same thing with like eating healthy or even just like anything. It's like how are you going to feel in the moment of doing that thing, like the consistency of it, like how is that going to build that kind of like equity within yourself that you can trust what you're going to say and you can trust yourself when you say you're going to do something. I
Yeah.
think that eventually builds over time and that kind of ties into winning the day, and then you'll wake up 3 months later consistently winning days and then you'll notice a change
Yeah.
rather than hoping that that change is going to come in a few weeks. And if it doesn't in a few weeks, you get discouraged and stop doing it. Like you need to have a different reason for why you're doing it rather than just the outcome.
Yep.
Because even once you get the outcome, like what are you going to do? Stop? Like if you're like, oh, like I want like this certain type of body type, when you get there you're going to stop working out? Like no, there's going to be something else you're going to want over that. So it's about like the process of it more than the actual outcome. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing, like especially for me too. Like I like tend to fall in love with what I think the outcome is going to make me feel like, but then I don't fall in love with the process of getting it. And the process of getting it is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like getting it's not the end result. It's like the whole process is like the result. And then
Yeah.
when you get it, there's just going to be a new process that you're going to have to implement. So it's like falling in love with that process on a day-to-day basis rather than just looking towards the total outcome. And I think that was one of the things we were talking about earlier about that study, talking about delayed gratification
Mm.
versus immediate gratification. And how like if you go for immediate gratification, it's easier to stick to things, but if like it's harder for us to delay gratification. So it's like, oh, like I'm gonna work out for X amount of weeks because in the future I'm gonna be a certain way. That's a lot
Yo,
harder. Yeah.
what study?
Let me see.
Because like you said, like, oh, the study we looked at before, like, the listeners have no clue.
Yeah, there was just this meta-analysis on New Year's resolutions, and the researchers found that like immediate rewards, they were easier to stick to, whereas delayed rewards were not.
Mm.
So basically, it's saying that like long-term goals are harder to stick to than short-term goals, and it's because people have a hard time delaying gratification.
Yeah.
So that's I guess that's what I'm saying, like setting those long-term goals, but then reframing it so that they're like shorter-term goals, like winning a
Mm.
day, you
Yeah.
know, and then adding up to those longer-term goals. It's easier to stick to if you break it down like that.
Definitely. Yo, to end off this episode, could you read some of the statistics about like how many people stick to New Year's resolutions? Because, and the reason why I want you to share it is because for me personally, when I hear statistics that share that only a small percentage of people do something, it actually motivates the heck out of me because I think like I want to be a part of that small percentage. Because I know that there's a very small percentage of people who stick to their New Year's resolutions and like how long and everything. So I want you to share that so that our listeners can hear that and then get inspired, not discouraged, because we've all been the majority percentage here of like not, you know, sticking to our New Year's resolutions. Let's make
Yeah.
this year 2020
So
it work.
so here's one, and then it also gives a like a recommendation of kind of what we were talking about,
Yeah.
where it says that studies have shown that less than 25% of people actually stay committed after 30 days. Only 8% actually accomplish their resolutions. And
Wow.
so, and then this article goes on to say that instead of having like an overall resolution, like set goals.
Mm.
So like instead of a resolution being like, oh, I'm gonna like work out more or like eat healthier, be like, oh, I'm gonna work out 2 times a week.
Yeah.
Like set something measurable, so that you can like you have something to track towards. And I think
Exactly.
like a lot of people do that. Like they tend to have resolutions where it's like, oh, like I'm never gonna drink again, or oh, like I'm gonna be healthier, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
like get my finances under control. It's like, bro, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like how are you gonna measure that?
Yep.
So kind of having like setting actual like measurable goals.
Yep.
And that's why like for me, and I've like historically had trouble with New Year's resolutions because I would do something like that. I'd like wait till the new year and then be like, all right, like this is gonna be different. Oh crap! I just whacked my mic. Like, oh, this is gonna be different this time. But then just being like, all right, like instead of trying to like win the year, like let's try to win a day at a time and like one morning routine at a time.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about like, you making it measurable. Like one of the things I'm doing, two things, like one in business and one in personal life. For business, dude, this is the first time I've ever done this, and I feel really good about it, but also like kind of scared. I set all of the workshops that I'm going to be hosting for the rest of the year.
Oh,
Like I
wow.
put it in my calendar. like it's a rough outline because I mean, like I even went out to like November and December of 2020, but just like roughly. So like my online workshops, my webinars, listener, person who's listening, if you have not checked out a webinar, click the link in my Instagram bio, you'll find it. And then workshops in person in Colorado. So people, if you're in Colorado, hit me up. I got workshops, but I have 18 in total. And so like, I know the exact number. And so like, I'm committed to doing those. And then personally, you and I did this last year. I know you did it more than I did, but this year I'm also committing to no drinking, no smoking, as in weed. I guess I don't smoke cigarettes, and no caffeine. So for 1 year, 366 days, because we have a leap year.
Oh, it's a leap year this year?
Yeah, it is.
Wow, you're doing it on a leap year. Fuck.
I know. One more day.
One extra day.
But that's like you said, like measurable. Like I know you said, like one of the things you said was like, oh, like I'm never going to drink again. Well, like that's indefinite. You don't know when you're going to die.
Bro, that was the thing. That was so like, because I did actually make that claim like after college. I was like, I'm not drinking again.
Yeah.
And I was good for like a year and a half, but then it's like you evolve.
Yeah.
Like you're a different person in a year and a half. So then I was like, all right, like I can definitely like have a beer now at certain events. And then so last year, like 2019, I did it again. I was like, I'm not going to drink for this year.
Yeah.
And now that it's a new year, like I'm going to like reassess. Like I haven't made that claim yet this year, but
yeah,
like,
I was wondering actually, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do.
All right. Cool.
I'm not making a decision yet though, but I'm not, again, like that's the thing about like how I am now. It's not like since I'm not making a decision, I'm going to go out and get like hammered on a Friday. You know, like I'm going to have like, now I can have like a beer with dad or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Yep. Beer with dad.
Turn up.
Yeah. Oh, I could see that like on shirts and stuff. Beer with dad. Start a podcast.
That would actually be pretty interesting, actually. Like the podcast would just be you're drinking a beer with your dad and just talking about whatever.
What's that? What are you doing?
What
Drinking
else?
beer, watching the game. But actually would be a good idea. Like beers with dads.
Yeah,
Invites
but the podcast would never end because it would just be like every time we wanted to end, dad would just be like, what else?
And what else? Yeah, our dad at least. Anyway, I mean, you got anything else that you want to share on New Year's?
What else?
Stuff? Yeah, what else? I got nothing else. I said my piece.
Yeah, no, I said my piece too.
Use.
Like,
oh.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Just one last thing about like, because I was talking about the energy, like the spiritual energy of it. I wanted to give an analogy that I mentioned before we started the recording. Is that this is a wave. I mean, you could even imagine it as a literal wave of energy that's coursing through the world right now as we know it. This happens every year. It's literally like a wave, like in the ocean. Like if you are a surfer and you want to have a great day surfing, then what you do is you paddle to catch the wave. The wave is here. It's not too late. You could start paddling and catch the wave of this energy of this new year, but it's got to be now. Like we're already a week in. When we post this, it'll be a week in. And so yeah, utilize this energy of this time right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. Like just start now. Like
yeah,
I'm like, I guarantee that there's some people that are listening or just some people in the world that are like, God damn it, it's like the 5th already. Like I have to wait. Like I can't. Like I missed my chance. Like no, like you can still start even if it's like 3 weeks from now. Like the way you can still start. Like you can start at any time, but it's just like use this time because there's an energy around this time to help catapult you.
Exactly.
I'm not saying this is the only time, but like this is a good time to start.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, it's not like there's not going to be another wave.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not that it's once a year there's a wave. Like there's waves of energy all the time. There's a wave of energy every time for you listening at your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a wave because you're turning another year. Yeah. Chris was just doing you can't see it, but I can. He's doing what is it? The wave, like the sports events.
Games.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's all I gotta say.
I'm good.
I enjoy the wave. Talk soon. And that's it for today. So thanks for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. So any questions, any comments, just connect with us on Instagram. You could always DM us at Kevin Francis Carton
and at Chris J. Carton. And also, if you feel guided to, the one thing we do ask is for you to please rate the podcast and leave us a review. This way we can reach more people and impact more lives with this amazing information. With that, we'll see you on the next episode.